Before this video starts, I'd just like to quickly tell you about my new channel where I upload my bad Asphalt 9 runs. I don't try too hard in events unless I really feel like it, but I do try much more in Clash, which I definitely will be making videos on as well. I pause uploads there while I work on videos for this channel because the workload is too much otherwise, so do keep that in mind. Anyway, I hope to see you there. Onto the video. Everyone, I'm Dak there, and welcome to a different kind of video. If you didn't know, I love listening to music. I'm currently learning how to make music. And I love the very musical side of dubstep. For today's video, I'll be going back through Virtual Riot's discography as of December 2024 and reviewing the whole thing because why not? And because I'm a huge fan of his. Fair warning, I'm not a career music reviewer and I don't listen to much dubstep outside of Virtual Riot, Temnite, and the Chime side of things. I also listen to things on headphones, at home. I don't listen to things in a live setting. That's a factor as well. So if my opinions are garbage, you now know why. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, I'll be skipping over a lot of Virtual Riot's early stuff because there's a ton, and most of it is too old for me or didn't interest me. The first time we hear the high-pitched riser. It's very quiet in this song though and isn't used often at all for a while after this song. I didn't expect it to be this old, honestly. This song only really shows its age in the drops, but yeah, otherwise I love everything that is in the drops. Nice genre on the way, I'm sure it's just coincidence. This song definitely sounds like February 17th, 2012. The panning on the basses is a nice touch and the whole track sounds dreamy. Great vocals as well. 142,000 plays and so few comments is interesting. This is the original version of a later song, I guess you could call it. The remake, as I'll call it, really is a major improvement on this song. It's also the first song I could hear my favorite Virtual Riot riser in. This is a pretty nice little track with some clear inspiration from Skrillex's remix of Cinema in the drop. My preferred version of this song. This is one of the earliest songs I actually somewhat like from Valhyr, and I think he starts to work within this style of song more later on. His remix of his collaboration with Crystal Drop and Bungie is dark and atmospheric, and I quite like it, although the second half is just a straight up repetition. Pretty fun track, but the switch up at 159 and 359 isn't really it. The title does say remastered, so I think the mix was originally pretty whack. And I really think it is the case after listening to the version uploaded to his YouTube. Haunted has some cool moments, especially with parts like 140 to 158, but otherwise not my kind of song. Very decent track, and I really like the first half of the song, especially the intro and the melody in the second part of the first drop. The melody in the part from 030 to 055 is fun, but that's really it. I'm not a fan of the kind of sound at 117 and 125, but I guess it was to be expected from Party Hard in the title. This has all the best parts of Virtual Riot's 2012 sound, from the basses to the pad at 203. The SoundCloud version is different to other versions for whatever reason. I preferred it over the YouTube and Spotify versions, and I didn't know Virtual Riot did anime vocals like this.
You want some more, right?
Maybe. Ending's cool. This song is full of vibes and just feels like all the highlights of 2012, with the round time vocal and the beautiful vocal chops. I wouldn't listen to it more than once in a while though. The intro and the ending are great, but the rest of the song unfortunately gets repetitive. The iconic EDM mashup with the classics of the era. Solid track, but I wouldn't listen to it more than once in a while. I think this song is the very beginning of Val starting to find his style. Solid track, but not my favorite of this era. I wish he'd have his own vocals in more of his songs though, cause when he has included them, they've always been solid. The Dark Side sees him go for a very old school, minimalist, sound design focused song. February 2nd, 2013, but it feels a bit like 2009. Also flow in the switch up of both drops that wouldn't get explored more until many years later in other circles. I'm actually a fan of 206 to 211 in particular, and the rest of the song isn't bad. The beginning of Virtual Riot atmosphere and ambience, I think, with some insane heavy drops. I also really like the sound at 4 minutes. Animal Project Mayhem featuring Virtual Riot is literally just vocals put on top of Dreadnought. Very mediocre vocals on an already meh instrumental. Also my preferred version of this song. I like the melody scene in the intro, the break, and the outro, and the after drop pad from Free, but that's about it. The mix is cleaner than I remember, and more cool small details than I remembered. To be fair, the last time I really listened to this was years ago when I was using $7 Sony earbuds that fit terribly and sounded worse. I can kinda see why it blew up the way it did, and the song is nice but it's not my favorite of all time. 3 minutes to 3:40 is a part I can really get behind though. The intro with Val's vocals is sick as hell. The rest of the song is also damn good. The first very obvious appearance of my favorite virtual Riot riser, but it's also quiet and not nearly as prominent as in later songs. You can tell that he's still finding his sound and trying different things here. The remix not posted on his profile is considerably longer. It's basically the original remix he did, and everything after the first drop is different. The layer at the very beginning of the song plays over the bass, the first drop repeats unaltered, and the song ends on that thing from the intro. Honestly, I prefer the live edit version to this. Mr. Mitten's groove has some nice ambience in the non-drop parts. A quintessentially old melodic virtual Riot classic. Fun, memorable melody and pretty bassline, heavy hitting drop. Pretty good song. I like this more than Sugar Rush since it feels a bit more polished. Overall, good EP. Another song featuring my favorite virtual Riot riser, and the first instance of that woo whoa bass thing. The first time we see this kind of intro, and it's cool, I guess. Good song, just gets a bit repetitive after 134. Funky, not a fan of the trap part though. Rest is decent. The original songs are better than all of these. The drops in this remix are absolutely magnificent, especially that woo 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 bass in the switch up. Love that sound to bits. I see some comments about this being way better than the original, and while I'm sure that's the case, I have no intention of finding that out for myself. I didn't give this a proper chance initially, but now that I finally have, I can appreciate it for what it is. The song also has a very nice sense of progression. My favorite virtual Riot riser is displayed much more prominently in this song. Vocal chops in the intro are top notch, and the second drop is beautiful. Beautiful outro as well, all around fantastic remix. An absolute classic, simple and fun. Pretty good remix, sexy growls and basses too. There are some good moments on this remix, namely 2:15 to 2:43 in the outro, but most of it isn't quite for me. I love the flow in the drops. The sounds are all on point as well. Very fun, unique take on melodic dubstep. Also probably my favorite song with this era of virtual Riot sound design. Way more sub than I remember too. This is just an okay track. What brings it down mainly for me is the sounds used in the drop, the intro, and the drops being a bit long-winded, and song overall feeling a bit repetitive. This song was in my top 10 at one point, but fell out because of the first drop. It gets especially good in the second half though. This is one of the better few songs in this era of melodic virtual Riot to me. This feels like an older song than it actually is, and it's personally not for me. The intro is just so pretty, and that melody is just perfect. The first drop is nice, the second drop not so much. This is that remake of Warzone that I mentioned. It is a major improvement on all fronts: songwriting, composition, sound design, and atmosphere. Another song that features my favorite riser prominently. 2:17 to 2:47 builds energy beautifully, then releases it in such a perfect way. Right after 2:49 is also where Val starts really getting good with his chill atmospheric breaks. Beautiful song, and the heavy part is heavier than I remembered. I really like the pitch of the bass sound consistently going down that part. The first VIP we're going to be talking about, and it's probably Virtual Riot's best VIP still to this day. It takes all the key parts of the original and puts it in his new style at the time, and just works so well. So We're Not Alone VIP is a great VIP. I don't really see why this is even a thing, seeing how the first VIP wrapped it up so nicely at the end. Like, how do you end a song like this and feel the need to make a sequel? This isn't a terrible VIP, but it's just too far removed from the original to really work for me. The original's better. This song would be good if it was just the chill atmospheric parts, which at most make up like 13% of the song. Don't quote me on that percentage, I didn't actually calculate it. This song would be good if it was just the instrumental. I absolutely can't stand the vocals of the original since they're actually uncomfortable to listen to for reasons I won't detail. Everything from the break to the end is just great though, and the second drop is a really nice kind of heavy Virtual Riot. As mentioned, We're Not Alone VIP is Virtual Riot's best VIP to date, and the other remixes kinda just exist. Very high up in my top 10. The song takes you on a journey, like a zero-gravity trip through space. The execution of the theme is on point, and is both atmospheric and energetic in the best way. Probably the only song with vocal chops I don't like from Virtual Riot. Usually he does very nice vocal chops. It takes a while to get to the drop, but it is pretty decent once you get there. 3:51 to end is also pretty cool, but song overall isn't really for me. The intro, the vocals at 1:26, and 2:54 to end are the only parts I really like in this song, unfortunately. Amazing remix, but it unfortunately didn't hold up as well as other songs when put on repeat more. It's probably a me thing where songs with more vocals don't last as long as purely instrumental songs after I replay them a lot. Another absolute classic in the top 10. Even despite the first part of the second drop not being as good as the first, the melody and the bass one-shots in the first drop and the ending are just too good to not include in the top 10. Intro and the sound design flex are pretty cool, rest of the song is a bit too repetitive. Nicer sounds than in warm-ups though. Not for me. Not a fan of the kind of sound design in this song. Interestingly, this is where Kotori got the
Okay, let's try something different.
sample from his remix of In My Head. This used to be in my top 10, but fell out for feeling repetitive. Beautiful intro and insane drops. Pretty nice break and outro as well. Aside from Different World, this EP is a miss for me. Another one of my top 10. Love the lead melody and the first drop. Second drop is a bit of a you-know-me situation, but that doesn't detract too much. Pretty cool chill thing with some nice ear candies in the intro. Not my kind of song beyond that though. Rather than a mashup of general EDM, this is a dubstep mashup. Pretty good, but I like the first half of the song more than the rest. Song is well made and clean, but it's not really for me. I'm sure it makes some insane club ambience though. Beyond sees him reusing really old sounds and samples from songs years prior, but in a more modern and polished package. Pretty cool first drop, but the variation in the second drop isn't my thing. Song also got old pretty quickly for me for some reason. The two remixes of Alien. Xylian's remix is better, and it's about as good as the original to me. They're both just okay. Xylian's remix has a cooler intro though. Quest remix just isn't for me. Too repetitive. Even for me, as someone who likes repetition of sounds but not in structure. I think it's a Megalodon thing. Virtual Riot doesn't structure his songs like this. This really is just a Megalodon song with some Virtual Riot presets. The vocals are what brings this song down for me. Otherwise, the non-drop parts are pretty good. Also what seems like the very beginnings of what I think of as Virtual Riot bro step. As with two other songs on this EP, the sound design is a fugly continuation of what was featured in warm-ups, which really doesn't work for me. I'm also surprised that it took until September 2015 for this flow at 2:19 to be discovered, and not even used again until years later by other producers. The intro is fun and cool as well as the outro, but that's really it. While this ticks all the boxes of things I'd want out of this era of melodic Virtual Riot, just doesn't quite hit the same as songs in my top 10. I don't really know why that is, but that does show my tastes are pretty particular. This EP is unfortunately a miss for me. Pretty fun track with all the essential Virtual Riot bro step presets, and the best way to end the song with that pad. An improvement on all fronts. Each drop captures the spirit of the original drops, but more insane or more fun. Everything before the final drop is my favorite part of the song, last drop is just okay. This used to be in my top 10 for 024 to 038 and 131 to 207, but fell out because the drops didn't hold up to replaying. Melodic Virtual Riot means virtual bro step, and the end product is just alright. The first half of the first drop before the switch at 115 is pretty nice, and so is the break and the lead part at 246, but after that I don't feel the need to listen further. Another solid Virtual Riot remix of Barely Alive. I can't really tell which bass sounds are whose, but that's fine. Borg with Fun Case and Juices with doublets are iconic. Both great on first listen, but didn't hold up that well to replaying. The drops are the strongest parts of the song here, which usually isn't the case. I noticed that this era of virtual bro step goes harder and crazier on the second drop, and it usually works. For this song though, I prefer the first drop. There's also this demo version that I like much more than this final release. I don't really know how to feel about this one. The intro is sick and the sound design is the type I like, but the song as a whole is just meh. Overall, Chemistry EP just boils down to it's aight. For me, it goes Showdown on top by far, Juices, Borg, then Leave It Behind. Crazy bass preset in this one, not really my favorite otherwise. This is where the future garage bass get really good. If Killer Noise's sound wasn't as prominent in the drops, I probably would have liked it more. Also a classic. The second half of the song is where this song really shines. I really like coming back to it once in a while, but I wouldn't put it in my daily listening rotation. I expected this song to go in a different direction when I first heard it, based on the title and the album art. Too pop-oriented for me. The original songs are better. A nice melodic bro step remix, and the first signs of Virtual Riot starting to design these super clean growls. My only complaints with this are the incorrect vocal before the drop, which is fixed in the VIP, and the 107/243 switch. Everything else is fine. While it does have the correct vocal before the drop this time, the rest of the song is just not my style. Not in my top 10, but can never go wrong with this. I especially love the super distorted vocal chops in the second drop. Everything in this VIP except the drops are so much nicer, especially the guitar. I prefer the drops to the original. The first song of the Where is Virtual Riot in this bracket? I mean, the build up with the brass shots is distinctly Virtual Riot, as well as maybe the lead and chords and non-drop parts, but that's about all I can hear. Setting the theme of this bracket is also not for me. Very high up in my top 10, this song actually got me into Virtual Riot. I had heard of him before first listening to this in like 2021, but this really made me a fan of his music and get into dubstep as a whole. So while I only like listening to it occasionally now, or I was absolutely in love with it before, I have to thank this song for getting me into niche music and learning to make music. Where's Virtual Riot in this?
You must practice your kung fu.
Very fun rhythm track. Definitely the weakest track on here, but still pleasant to listen to once in a while. The title track is definitely a throwback to an older era of Virtual Riot, but the way it's done isn't really for me. Fun Electro House? I don't know, track that goes hard in the second half. Tied with another track for my favorite of this EP. Button Masher is cool. The Where Are You callback is pretty cool, but I'd rather actually go back and listen to that. The first drop gets really good as it goes on though, and it's my favorite part of this song. It's pretty alright. Features a lot of the more satisfying bass sound design he's done versus the rest of the EP to me. This used to be in my top 10 and is tied with another song for the lowest spot. It's good to listen to once in a while. The outro is beautiful and I think it would have made a perfect ending to the EP if this was last on the track list. Solid atmospheric future garage track. I love all the foley going on in the intro. Very short though. Where is Virtual Riot in this? In my head, VIP is cool, the other remixes didn't resonate with me. My second favorite future bass track from Val. That second drop is just perfect. Not my kind of vibe, well made track. I have to say I don't like this as much as Juice's. The switch ups at 128 and 145 feel kinda messy and bring down my overall enjoyment by a sizable amount. Very clean and simple with a completely different vibe to the first remix. I like this one a slight bit more for the better work on the vocals and the vocal chops. Yoshi's vocals in second drop carry, rest of the song is just aight. Yoshi's vocals are great and the saws in the drop complement the vocals well. The very last part drags on a bit though. Nice genre name buddy. Yeah, just no. Even though this is a work in progress, I really like what I'm hearing. Here's to hoping it will be finished sooner rather than later, in a way that I won't hate. My least favorite of this EP. The VIP edit thing that he plays in Slothland's 2022 set is a completely different story though. At the top of my top 10, and my favorite of this EP. Everything about this song is immaculate. The vibe, the bass line, the mix, Carl Anderson's vocals. Please erase this VIP from existence. Our final entry into the Where is Virtual Riot in this bracket. It's only 2 minutes 34 seconds. And Skybreak with the I hear no VR in this in all lowercase. Man, I did not expect that. I fully agree though. Good, but not as good as earlier songs with Barely Alive and Virtual Riot involved. That intro is incredible, but the first drop is too atonal tear out for me. Second drop goes hard in an ironic way because of how funny the vocoding sounds. Not officially released, but this is an improvement over the first VIP. I don't know where it's from, but yeah. Pretty fun song, gets good from the second drop on. Probably my favorite Virtual Riot Bro Step era song, especially with the last drop. Kinda boring, even though the last drop is objectively very high energy. Huge improvement over the original. I'm not really a fan of 217 to end, but that isn't enough to drag it down by a lot. One of Virus Syndicate's best performances with a beautifully produced instrumental. The second drop isn't as awesome as the first though. Why did he even feel the need to make this? Decent rhythm track. Sick intro, could do without the second half though. Too repetitive. I only really like at 036 to 048. Rest of the song is boring. A much more recent addition to my top 10. I actually first heard this around February. Love the vocals and the chill future garage vibes. Not for me. It's like, I only really like the first part of the first drop and the bass sounds that I think are Virtual Riot and 312 to 321. The disappointment of the year when I first heard it in 2018. Listening to it again, I know all three artists can do better than this, but instead of something truly big, we got a boring, stripped down, bare bones rhythm track. Everything from the break after the second drop on is the least bad part of the track though. I also have plans to remix this song myself at some point in the future. Ostep's vocals are great. All the drops are completely insane, they're not the best parts of this song. I can't really tell exactly which sounds or whose apart from some distinctly Virtual Riot one-shots. Really clean intro and future garage parts. Alan Watt's sample really adds to it as well. Drop is kinda empty feeling. The most epic virtual rhythm track for me. Every drop kills it too, somehow. As this commenter correctly assessed, I'm just here for the intro. Cleanest, most atmospheric intro I've heard from him. Everything else is decent, I guess. Preset Junkies VIP is my favorite track of this EP, and as mentioned before, is an improvement over the original. I only like the drops, they carry the whole song for me. Everything else isn't for me. Functional interlude. The intro and Leah Culver's vocals are great, and the outro is pretty good. This song could do without that weird pre-drop vocal for both drops though. Better Complexer song than Continue, having its fun moments, just doesn't have the same vibe as his old Complexer songs. Why is this song slightly better? Decent. Not the best performance I've heard from Virus Syndicate. I don't know if Virtual Riot's Future Garage's mid-section really works with the vocals here, but it's probably the best part of the song. The switch up in both drops bring the whole song down a lot, unfortunately. Not Infect's strongest work nor Virtual Riot's. I can't decide which drop is better, but the intro is the best part. The German bit at the very end is interesting, going off of the translations two people have given in two separate YouTube uploads of the song. Do I really mention the 3 Disciple mega collabs because he reposted We Don't Play This Time? Fine, sure. My favorite of the 3, since I can hear many artists' sounds very clearly, and it all comes together to make a fun, proper dubstep track. Unlike Bowtied Media, I like the fakeouts. Some of them are especially sick, like Barely Lives and Most Steps, which was Virtual Riot's idea. You can see it type-stamped in the comments of the making of livestream on YouTube. The ending is also funny. The overall song is just okay. I also think the Rushdown remix did it better, but that may just be because it came out way after the original, and the Rushdown crew had the finished product to go off of. Virtual Riot did a lot for this song, and was responsible for polishing and merging stems. Except that would have been the case if the stream demo wasn't scrapped and only 2 notable things from it were included in the final product. It can't help but feel a little like we were robbed. As for what we actually got, it isn't necessarily bad, it's just not what we wanted. Virus Syndicate and the visual team absolutely killed it, more than they had with We Don't Play, and the song itself is clean. But that's not what we wanted, and something we've seen before, just without the fake outs of all the artists. While we're on this tangent, I'll quickly add his demo tracks for all of his sample packs that are on Splice until Heavy Bass Design Volume 3 have been really good. Like, really, really good. Heavy Bass Design Volume 3's track doesn't have smooth enough transitions, and the sense of progression is off compared to the rest. I know that doesn't really matter for sample pack demos, but the difference is jarring. Anyway, back on topic. Minute to minute 09 is the only part I like since it reminds me of Carrier, but just better. I didn't expect the Japanese 1-2-3 vocals in the pre-drop. The fake out at the second drop is epic as well. Sick song overall minus drop 1.5, which is a bit weak, but I can still get behind it. Start to 025 and 325 to end were nice. Yes. No sir, far from it. No. The recall is rhythm, I guess. I don't get why the drop is here. It's completely ill-fitting with an otherwise really chill, beautiful song. I used to not be able to appreciate this one until recently. I don't know what changed. Too poppy for me. I can kinda see the vision here, but the execution isn't quite it for half the song. I only like 130 to 156 and second drop to end. This is an old remix from 2017 that he finished in 2021 by adding a second drop. With this one he stayed fairly faithful to the first drop, but with some nice modern VR touches. I don't know why it's called a VIP though. Login is a functional intro, I guess. Going from the VIP to this was honestly jarring. Trust me, the VIP is 10 million times better. Why that is? It takes the core bits of simulation and fleshes them out, while the original is pretty bare bones. There's a ton of mini song ideas executed perfectly that also work really well as a whole, and that break is just godly. 338 to end is also insane. I don't really see why this is the second most played on the album. It also sounds so much better at 150 BPM. Part of the 6 deluxe version tracks, this kinda detracts from the original. If the original was like 50 or even 25% as colored as this, it probably wouldn't have been the ideal version. Don't Worry is a fine and fun rhythm track. Not for me. Virtual Riot's take on color bass in this track doesn't resonate with me as much as some other artists. You make me feel so. And the rest of the short last drop is fun, but that's really it. It does go hard when mashed up with Bad Blood and mixed with Don't Need You, or into Navex Transcendence, as featured in Lost Sense 2022 and EDC 2024 sets respectively. Decent track until the third drop. The second color bass track on the album, it's more in line with what I expect of color bass. Second half is more to my taste. As with Chroma, I like other color bass tracks from other artists more. There is a work in progress track that Val uploaded to his Bandcamp titled Light Prism that I like though. Nah. Toho Rhythm gets progressively better as it goes on. Build after second drop into fake out into third drop is definitely my favorite part as well as the ending. Still only averages a 5 out of 10 for me. The title gave me something cool to look up and learn about. Mad Knife Party vibes until it gets weird. Song is it for me. The vocals are kinda just okay on this one, but I think Val pulled off the vision pretty well here. Especially the second half from to end. It's definitely one of the stronger tracks on this album. Far better than Dreaming from 2011, this is one of my all-time favorites and won't be leaving the top 10 anytime soon. This song takes you on a journey through 3 very distinct but great sections. In my opinion, one of Virtual Riot's all-time masterpieces. It being solo in place versus the rest of the album is a major injustice. Not for me. Both sets' vocals are very nice. I do prefer the second half of the song as a whole, so I kinda think the first half to be redundant. A very functional end to the album. The rest of the deluxe version tracks. I used to like How Do I Know with Prism. Lost Angeles is probably more for live settings rather than listening on headphones and isn't really a full track. Dream Logic and Boss Fight After Party I've already gone over, and the chill remix of This Could Be Us isn't for me. I can only listen to this when set to 150 BPM. At 150 it's a 7.5, but otherwise it's just a 5 out of 10. Probably the best of the Disciple Alliance tracks he's done. I really like the first half with the old Virtual Riot style. That second half with the new VR sound keeps this from being in the top 10 honestly. The song very much sounds like it started in 2019 and finished in 2022. At least he keeps the new parts faithful to the old parts of the song. I personally like everything other than drops 2 and 3. Quick side note, why is the quality so bad on the SoundCloud upload? After listening to the original, I love how Val completely flipped the vibe. It works so well. 2023 sees Virtual Riot start using gun basses in the sounds. Frankly, I'm not a fan of them. It's good. A mashup of 2 remixes that he plays in his sets, this is the kind of 2023 VR I can get behind. Pretty cool track for his 29th birthday. A masterpiece of a chill melodic bass song, and you know it's in my top 10. Simulation the DLC, essentially the remixes. As previously mentioned, miles better than the original. Nah, the only good thing I can point out is that my favorite Virtual Riot riser is made just a bit louder in the intro. The preview and the teaser video made it sound cooler than it actually turned out to be. Fantastic first drop, second half of the song could have done with something much more different. The original was already a masterpiece to me. I don't see the need for this remix really, not for me. Also not for me. Decent color-based remix. Good remix, but doesn't beat the original for me. The drops are a bit weird to me, everything else is pretty cool. It's not quite even, bro. Like I said before, I don't see why this is a thing. Stealing Fire, his second studio album, very different from his usual sound and loosely themed. I also feel like the master of all the songs is quieter than usual. It works as an intro, I guess. Is this Electro House? I don't know man, maybe Word worked with a different vibe. Hey, the transition out of the first drop is cool and so is the mid section, I'll give it that. Second drop is a solid no from me, however. I don't understand this one. Maybe it's for live sets. Interesting that there's multiple IDs in here, but too terror for me. Maybe if the snares in the first drop didn't have that sharp resonant ping on the tails, I'd like this version more. As it is though, this first drop is tied with the ID version in my books. The Mongolian throat singing just randomly coming in dragged my overall enjoyment of the song down by a ton. It's just too different from my idea of Virtual Riot. I guess that's the thing with this album, but man, 228 onwards is actually quite good, but like, man, at least the new intro connects well with the part showing the ID. Not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. At least the end's kinda cool. A strong display of VR's skill as a musician, but not really a substantial track. The written parts are the weakest for me, where everything else is strong. Especially the vocal, it pretty much makes the song. If those written parts were more to my taste, I'd definitely enjoy it much more. Full nod to his 2017 remix of One though. New Energy starts off nice, then gets weird when the main 2 melodies come in and the dark parts come in. Drum and bass like this isn't really for me. Something like Paper Planes on the other hand is. The song is well made and pretty to be fair. I like the drop of the ID version more since the main bass isn't as loud and the Fat Man Scoop Let's Go Now vocal is always just associated with the song for me. The extension as I think of it fits well too and the last part is pretty. The ending of the song is my only nitpick, it feels short and abrupt. Nah, Very pretty and very familiar Virtual Riot sound, which is what I love most. Strong Skrillex references with this one thanks to #1 Skrillex fan over here, especially with that With You Friends ending. Definitely one of my favorites from the album, with the main vocal playing a big role. The interlude I like better of the two, both as a transition to the next song, and I think it'd work well as a standalone piece. I just like the tone and atmosphere of this one more. And we end things on a strong track, the longest at well over 6 minutes. Not every day that you see that from Virtual Riot. Very pretty progressive house. Raven Gray killed it on the vocals. Yeah, not much here for me overall. Too different for me. Actually, I just learned that the whole thing with this album is the references to fire tracks he likes and samples and such. I guess I missed the whole point of this album. I did catch the Around Time reference in Dino Killer as well as miscellaneous others throughout the album, I just didn't think much of them. Well, that's all the Virtual Riot tracks I have a review for. That was a lot to go through. Going through Virtual Riot's full discography made me learn that he doesn't really like sticking with one sound for too long, and just how wide a range of music I personally can appreciate from him. On the one hand, the man just keeps getting better at what he does. His sound and skill in 2024 is simply next level compared to when he first started. You can tell he truly loves being a musician and not just a DJ or loud rhythm man. Unfortunately, a good chunk of his recent sound has been misses rather than hits for me. I'm really unsure of what direction his sound is going in, and I can't help but feel a bit sad about it. At the end of the day though, you gotta be a real superfan to like so many of his songs from different eras like I do. And it's completely normal to not like a few, or many songs. I mean, I know he's still got that classic melodic Virtual Riot and virtual bro step sound in him, as evidenced by some of his songs post-simulation that I like, and this song on his second account, he just doesn't pull it out often. Just mostly too different from what made me love his music in the first place. I know he's enjoying innovating and not going back to a familiar or classic sound too often, and whatever makes him happy, I'm happy for him. But man, clearly I prioritize familiarity in my preferred balance of innovating and a familiar sound. I can't be the only one, right? Surely there are others who just want a bit more of a familiar classic Virtual Riot sound in songs? God, I'm so selfish. Sorry for that flood of words. Whatever, at the end of the day, all we can do is see what comes next. Okay, this video was a long time in the making. I started on in March. Since I first got lazy with editing, then I decided to rewrite and re-record basically everything, as my opinions had developed and changed, and my original screen recordings and scripts were just not very good. I only decided to speedrun everything on this video a few days ago to get this video out before the new year. At least I got that done. Well, if you want more of this type of content, be sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments below. While you're there in the comments, let me know what you thought about these songs as well. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your day.